right? That's like about 22, 25. Let's say 25. 25 would be 33%, but let's say close to 25 endpoints that are unique. Now, if I implemented the key resource, all the endpoints related to keys in entirety, then it would actually, this is going to be like close to 10 minutes. It's too late. It's gone past 10 minutes. So I'm going to have to split this and publish this on, on LinkedIn. Sorry, I didn't keep an eye on the time here. Anyway, so back to what I was trying to say. I lost my train of thought there because I was conscious of this time here. I was just saying that the 30% would be like 25 endpoints, but if I implemented all the key endpoints, all the endpoints for the key resource, in other words, that would take care of 70% of the uniqueness. In other words, I would only be left with 30% of uniqueness remaining. Hopefully that makes sense to you, because it's important, right? You want to deal with the most complex problems first, because the chain is only as strong as the weakest link, as they say, right? So there's no point implementing the same type of endpoints for all the resources, in my mind, at least in this scenario, because it would have told me if there's a problem, whether there's an architectural challenge or if there's a design issue. But by implementing the unique set of endpoints first, being agnostic of the resource, just taking one particular resource, you try to handle those difficult issues first. That's what I did the last couple of days, and now I'm pretty much done with the key endpoints. In terms of the count, I'm only like maybe 15 endpoints in, give or take, right? So if I were to report this as status to myself, it would almost seem like you're 20% done. But that's not true. This is where ETAs go out the table, and I've discussed that in a different video, because that's not the way you interpret this, right? You're sure there are 75 endpoints, you're done with 15 of them, you do the simple math, it's 20%, but that's not it. Because these 15 endpoints are unique endpoints, and they are the first ones you solve. And it's always more difficult to solve it the first time than the second time, because you're just following a design pattern. At least that's the idea. So when I go to implement the same set of endpoints for the other resources, it's not going to take me as much time as it took for this one, right? For this one, I want to say, I did a lot of refactor before I started the work, so I can't include them. But let's say it took me, I want to say about maybe 6 to 8 hours, give or take, for just that particular work, right? And that's all and you don't get to do it that quickly, because unless you think about this problem up front before you get to your desk to code. And I also discussed that in a different podcast. It's rarely, not even rarely, I cannot think of a scenario where I've actually gone to my desk and sat in front of a machine without kind of having a good idea as to what files I would need to create, how many of them they might need to be, what the logic should be, right? So I've kind of thought through all of this without being in front of the machine. So when you actually go to the machine, you start typing, literally you start typing, right? And that's one reason why I think sometimes we are able to get things done a little bit faster. And you should, if you haven't seen that podcast, I encourage you to check it out. I've kind of explained how I do this thinking while I'm walking or working out or whatever else it is that I might be doing. Anyways, back to the problem. So 15 endpoints done. I have another 20-25% to go in terms of the uniqueness, because that's brought to the table by block pods and block pods and the hierarchy in itself. So I cannot solve that uniqueness by virtue of the endpoints related to the key resources, right? That's fine. So I would do that when I go to blocks. That's the next set of things. Now, let's get deeper, right, into this discussion. With the endpoints that I implemented right now, I mentioned earlier that I expected for that to have some refactor, and it sure did, because I started doing a couple of block endpoints, and I quickly realized I can actually genericize a lot of the code. And this particular API code I'm writing currently is in Ruby. So if you're familiar with Ruby, it supports, it's very rich when it comes to meta programming. So you can actually remove a lot of boilerplate stuff and redundancy and keep code as dry as possible. So I did a little bit of refactor. So the key implementation and the block implementation could actually share the same, the same services or the same base services and base models and whatnot. And I think that time could be potentially saved if I had taken a slightly different approach. But it didn't take all that much. It probably took me like 30 to 45 minutes to do the refactor, and that's what I expected. So I think I was intentionally picked this methodology for this implementation. But that doesn't mean I do the same thing or do things the same way every single time. It literally depends on the problem and our timelines and the complexity of what we're trying to solve. So that's so let's say just to wrap this up, I have another like 60 some endpoints to go, and once we are done with that, obviously I would push the code to our lower environment, and then we start doing the integration testing. And it's before we do that, we don't necessarily absorb everything that the UI team gives us in terms of the specification. A lot of the times we publish the spec. That's the majority of the cases. But in this case, I work closely with the UI team to define the spec, right? So it certainly has the inputs from the API side, but the choice of attribute names and stuff, in this case, the UI team picked it, right? So what that means is there are certainly some changes. I noticed I had to make those changes. Some minor adjustments to the endpoints, the path, the URLs and whatnot. So the UI team will have to make those adjustments. It's probably half a day's worth of work, maybe a day tops. Once they do that, we would push that to the lower environment, and then they would do the integration testing and see where things fail and make those adjustments, right? But here I've walked you through, maybe I can draw it out the next time, but sometimes you're outside and you can have the best of both worlds. It's probably much easier to see it visually. I know people have given me that feedback, but I mean, I'll do it when I can, yeah. So that's a real life approach to implementing APIs and a large number of endpoints for a system that is in production, and we're adding a brand new feature. This is not a bug fix, it's not an enhancement, it's actually a new feature altogether. So hopefully this helps. I know sometimes I pack a lot of content into these videos, and I've had that feedback from more than one person. And I honestly try to not say too many things, but sometimes you have to click record, you just forget all the learnings and feedback, and you just go back to it's like go back to the original shape or something. But anyways, it's live and learn, as they say. Hopefully wherever you are, the weather is just as nice. If not, I'm sure it'll become nicer. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.